Okay, we start. There is no need of introducing ourselves now, because I think everyone is old.
Yeah, I think everyone's been here before.
So, so this is going to be our third session. In the first part, Christine is going to talk about compost. It's a reminder of everything that we talked the first time, but we did it very quickly, so it's just going to slow down and spend more time talking about that and adding some more information. And then in the second part, first I will show you my garden and how I design it, and then we will take a couple of you to talk about your own design so we can help you. And if you are ready, Christine? Wait.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the first picture.
It is there? Yeah.
No.
Can you read the main benefits of composting?
No, it's not here.
Ah, because I haven't shared a screen. Oh, I'm very sorry. Now, can you see?
I think it's... Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about almost everything about composting. And then, as Alex said, she's going to talk about designing your garden. So we'll have the first. Okay, so there's three main benefits of composting, and the first one is it's about landfills. And I don't know whether you know, but almost half of all the rubbish that's thrown away and ends up in landfills is actually compostable. And once in the landfill, without the proper environment to be composted, everything just rots. And that means it releases methane and carbon dioxide, which we all know are greenhouse gases. So in the average bin that gets thrown away, put outside to be collected, half of that could actually go probably could go on the compost. So it's roughly about 21% food scraps, 15% paper and cardboard, 8% garden waste, and 8% wood waste. That's generally speaking. So by composting as much as you can, you're helping to stop landfills filling up and putting greenhouse gases from entering into the atmosphere. So that's one of the big benefits of composting. So and the second one. Right, once you've got your compost and you're adding it to your vegetable beds, it can again help decrease the amount of greenhouse gases that goes into the atmosphere, because using compost on the soil actually sequesters, as a sort of a fancy word for hides away, carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere. So it actually, the process of composting actually draws down CO2. And the way that's done is compost has a variety of friendly but beneficial microbes that plants need to absorb nutrients. And to keep those microbes around, plants actually release carbohydrates from their roots and attract the feed and feed the microbes underneath the soil. So they take the CO2 from the air and the water from their roots, and through photosynthesis, it turns it into carbohydrates or sugars, which then feeds more microbes. So, you know, it's an absolutely fascinating process. As you can see in the picture there, forests and woods and that sort of thing, they do that. That's the whole process. That's how, sort of rainforest and everything sequesters the CO2 from the atmosphere, because on the ground of the wood, that's sort of like one big compost pile. So, thanks to the ecology that compost promotes, carbon that was once in the atmosphere can be stored underneath the healthy soil. Yes, fascinating. So the third one is the compost actually adds nutrients to your soil. So, when you peel a banana and you chuck the banana skin away, you're having the nutrients from the actual banana, but there's still nutrients in that banana skin. So all the nutrients in your kitchen and garden waste is transformed into compost in such a way that it will improve the structure of your soil and add those important nutrients for your vegetable plants to utilise. Compost also, it balances the pH levels in your soil, and it keeps the soil nice and moist. So if it's really hot in the summer, if you've got a layer of compost, the compost might look dry on top, but underneath your soil will still be nice and moist, which is the moisture retention is what we need for the plants. So the beneficial microbes found in compost also help aerate and fertilise the soil and increases the surface area of the plant's roots, which is what we need. The saying goes, nature abhors a vacuum, and when you've got bare earth, the dirt can dry out and you don't get any sort of microbial life in it. And what happens is weeds then flock to this bare earth and try to start the process of the composting. And so it's always best to cover your soil with something. Some people use black plastic, to stop the weeds getting in. But the best thing is the compost, or manure, or that sort of thing. Another thing is that compost not only suppresses the weeds, but it also discourages slugs. One for you there, Val. Okay, let's move on. Oh, right. Okay, so what is it we actually need in the process of composting? Now, as I mentioned, there are millions of aerobic bacteria in 1 gram of soil. That's like a teaspoon of soil. And that million-strong bacteria use carbon as a source of energy, so it can keep eating, and nitrogen to build protein to grow and reproduce. So we need to mix both materials containing nitrogen and carbon, or as they're commonly called, green and brown. Now, as you can see on the picture here, green stuff is sort of kitchen scraps, plant clippings, manure, grass clippings, fallen leaves. When your plants grow, sometimes the leaves at the bottom, they go a bit yellow, and you take them off and they can go straight into the compost. And also coffee grounds. So you can use coffee grounds and tea leaves. Quick mention about tea leaves. Take the tea out of the tea bag, because I think I mentioned before, tea bags can have plastic in them, which you don't want in compost. So those are the things with nitrogen. Carbon is dried grass and leaves, wood products, paper. Now, it's got here eggshells. Now, I've seen that this is also green as well. So, yeah, eggshells. I don't actually put eggshells in mine because they take a really long time to break down. But, yeah, paper, egg cartons, that sort of thing. Those are all brown. So, and it's having a mixture of the brown and green. Now, it depends what sort of compost you've got as to what the ratio is that you put in, but we'll go into that a little bit later. What else we got here? Right, yeah, by alternating the two colours, the brown and green, the aerobic bacteria gets their energy by oxidising the organic material, which means that under the right conditions, the compost begins to heat up. And this is what we want. We want it to get warm and, if possible, to get it hot. So cold composts get warm and hot bins get hot. Although if you have a big enough cold compost, it will too get hot. Generally speaking, the average garden compost will only get warm, but yeah, warm is good. So, oh yes, there's one way, or few ways really to supercharge your compost if you really want it to get it going and to get it as hot as possible. It's best to put in things that have a very high nitrogen content, and there's things like animal manure, or if you're lucky to have chickens, the bedding from the chickens, or if you've got a rabbit or a guinea pig, all of the stuff that you usually chuck out, that can actually go in your compost. Nettles, stinging nettles are another great booster, and believe it or not, urine is a very good compost activator, so one to think about. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So, different types of composting. We've got cold, which is sometimes called passive. We've got hot composting. There's using a wormery, and there's one that I'm not that au fait with, which is bokashi, but it's quite fascinating, because it's sort of a completely different way of composting. So what composter is best for you? First, you need to decide on where you will be putting your compost. And the things to consider are, have I got the space? Have I got my money? And have I got the time? Because some of them do actually require a bit of time. So let's go on to the first one, the cold passive one. So we've got here in the first picture the very basic compost, and it's basically a place in your garden where you just chuck everything. It's simply a pile of kitchen waste, grass cuttings, garden waste, cardboard leaves and twigs, and you just keep piling it on in the designated area of your garden. And 18 months to 2 years, nature will have done its work, and underneath the pile you should have some fairly decent compost. So, if you've got that sort of space and you haven't got much time, this is quite a good one. But it will take quite a bit of, it's not going to happen overnight. And there's some things to consider. I personally wouldn't put on things like cooked food waste, like dairy or cheese or meat or anything like that, because you're going to have problems with rats or mice or foxes. Also, another thing not really to put in is weeds that have fully formed seeds on them. If you pick your weeds out and they're really tiny and they haven't even flowered yet, yeah, that's fine, you can bung them on. But I wouldn't put on loads of grass seeds or anything like that, because when you go to use the compost, they're just going to germinate, and you're going to have to do loads more weeding. So so not put any food waste, like because it will attract vermin.
I wouldn't put potato peels either, because then you can have potatoes growing. That actually has happened to me as well.
I think if you put a whole bag of potato on in, you might get it. But once if it does, I accidentally left a couple of little potatoes in one of my beds last year when I was digging them up, and they've actually started sprouting. But you can just pull them out, as if they're weeds. So all my potato peeling goes on. So it's experiment, see how it goes.
Next.
Yes, let's go to the next one. So the next step up is to either make an actual compost bin, and in this picture here, if you can scavenge a few pallets, they're quite easy. You can just tie them together. In the picture, they've got some plastic at the bottom, which with a cold compost like this, you really need it to be in contact with the soil, so that the worms and everything can sort of get up and do their work. But this sort of compost, compost bin is fairly easy to make. You would just bung everything in. If you wanted to cover it, you could put a piece of plastic on top just to stop it from getting really, really wet with the rain. But lots of people just leave them open to the open air. So So if you're not into DIY or building such a large compost bin, there are alternatives. So the next picture would be, this is what is commonly known as a Dalek. And this would be on bare earth. And you just pop all your garden waste and your cardboard and all your bits and pieces in the top. And then about, when it's full, you might have to leave it quite a while. It can take up to 18 months to actually get this to a point where you can use the compost that's at the bottom. The little hatch at the bottom there, you pull open and you just dig out the compost that you need. Now, when you go looking for a compost bin, you will see pictures of kitchen waste going in at the top and people digging out this nice dark brown, sort of a lovely fluffy dry compost. It's not going to look like that. That's just for the adverts. It might be wet. You might still have some stuff in there that's not fully composted. The longer you leave it, the better it's going to be. So some people buy 2 or even 3 of these Daleks, and once the first one is full up, they then start using the second one. And then by the time they're filling up the third one, the first one would probably be ready. So
the process is also quicker if the things are cut in small pieces. If you put like whole big branches, obviously it's going to take, like when you open after a year, the branches are going to still be there.
Yeah, that's true. Mm. Yeah. And the next one, this is just a different type of compost bin. There are lots of different styles that you can get. This is quite an easy one. I think they're probably, I don't know, I think they're about 40 or 50 pounds. And then the very last one is a tumbling one. This usually has 2 sections, one for you to fill up and the other one for, again, you wait for the first one to sort of mature while you're filling up the other one. And you just put your stuff in and you just turn it. And this is to aerate it. Because this is an aerobic composting, you have to have air into your compost. With the very basic one that we spoke of at the beginning, every now and again you have to turn it. And an easy way to turn it is to be able to put one lot of compost into another section. So this is what you can do with these the tumbling ones. I've never used one before, so I don't know what they're like, but they're good for patios. As you can see, they're off the ground. So if you've got a garage or a place in the garden that hasn't actually got soil, on a concrete base or something like that, these are quite good. So right, so that's cold composting. As I mentioned, if you get your compost big enough, it will get hot. But as I say, you've got to have much bigger than sort of like 3 meters square to get them very, very hot. And the hotter they are, the quicker they compost. So, okay, so the next one.
Oh.
Right. These are the new pictures you put in, Alex. Okay. Yes. Because deciduous leaves take quite a while to compost down, sometimes it's good to keep them separate and actually have a leaf mulch. So this will take a long time, but if you've got lots of trees in your garden, it's a good idea to sort of collect them all up and put them in you don't need anything specific, just sort of like some kitchen wire or some chicken wire, I should say, just to keep them so they don't sort of blow away and everything. And then after 18 months, a couple of years, you can turn it out and use it as a mulch as well. So, and big leaves, cut them up. The smaller they are, the better. Some people, they go around with a lawnmower over the leaves and cut them all up and then rake them all up and So that's a good idea. So that's leaf mulch, another passive cold composting.
And I think that this one, instead of bacteria, is more done by fungus. I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, so it's more common to have to see mold and other things going on, but it's still fine. This is how these are the ones that work on this specific type of material, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. This is the hot bin. I spoke of it briefly last time. Now, this is good for small gardens, and also if you're happy with spending, £150, £200, and also if you've got a lot of time on your hands, because they do need to be tended and fed regularly. Hot bins are specifically designed, insulated bins allow the temperature to build up inside, which in turn increases all of the bacterial activity and breaks down the material you put in much quicker. The aim is to get the hot bin between 40 and 60 degrees inside. That's why if you can get it going to that temperature, you open it up and all the steam comes out. And one of the benefits of this is that it will kill any weed seeds that happen to find their way in. When I actually have a hot bin in my garden, and when I hadn't got it up to speed, quite often I would open up the lid and I would see these pumpkin seeds sort of straining for the light, because they'd actually germinated inside. So it obviously wasn't hot enough. For it to work successfully, you've got to have the right combination of green and browns for the contents, and it definitely needs to be topped up every 2 or 3 days. So you have to know that you're going to have a constant supply of greens, and greens are relatively easy to find. Kitchen waste and grass and leaves and that sort of thing. I've actually found getting the browns is the most difficult. Cardboard is good for the hot bin, and if you know someone who's got a paper shredder, get them to keep all the shreddings, because you'll need to put quite a bit of paper in as well. It's not for the faint-hearted, and I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, because it's taken me over a year to figure out how to get the right recipe for it to work. So so some of the paper shredder would come in very handy, unless you've got one yourself and you can shred all your junk mail. I wouldn't put, and this goes for all composts. Don't put shiny paper in. Shiny paper doesn't compost down very well, and you'll end up with pieces of magazines and stuff. The next one is a wormery.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you something. Do you think that it is possible building one of these, this white, is the same material and this, something? That they are like white insulated boxes. Do you think that is possible to make one?
You could, but I don't think it would be as successful, because the stuff that the hot bins are made of are the same material that car bumpers are made of. So it's quite hard. Although it looks as though it's made of polystyrene, it's not polystyrene.
Oh, okay.
And if you made one out of polystyrene, you might have problems with rodents, rats, because they would just eat into it.
Okay.
One thing I forgot about the hot bin: you are actually supposed to be able to put everything in it, like cooked food waste, bones and all that sort of thing. But excuse me. But unless you are quite expert at keeping it at hot temperature, I don't personally put cooked waste in it. I just put kitchen scraps, some vegetable peelings and that sort of thing, along with grass and that sort of thing. So no, I don't think you would be able to make yourself one successfully. But going back to the wormery. There we go. Now this is good for small gardens, balconies, garages, even if you've got a conservatory or something like that. These are good. These are kept off the ground, and as I say, they're more suitable for patios and balconies. They do need to be sheltered from the direct sun or from freezing weather. So you don't want it standing outside in direct sunlight in the summer, and you need to put it somewhere in the winter where it's not going to get frozen. There are usually 2 or 3 compartments to a wormery, and there's a tap at the bottom to collect the liquid that you can use as a fertilizer. And the liquid is usually referred to as worm tea or worm wee. So the worm liquid can be collected by the tap at the bottom and then diluted with water, and then you can water your plants with it, which they will love. The picture of the wormery here looks as though it's one compartment, but I've seen quite a few where people have made them themselves, and there are 2 or 3 compartments. And what happens is that you put when you get a wormery, you usually buy them as a kit. So you get the starter, which is sort of like a bit like a compost. You get the worms, and the worms are not just earthworms; they're special tiger worms. If you make your own compost, if you make your own wormery and you want the worms, you can buy the worms online. So they send them through the post to you. And these tiger worms are actually capable of eating twice their body weight in a day. As I say, it's possible to buy complete wormery kits, complete with the worms. I quite fancy, this might be my new project actually for this year. I quite fancy having a wormery, and I fancy having a go at making my own one. Watch this space. The other thing about a wormery is that you don't have to worry too much about the greens and browns. It's basically, you just put your kitchen scraps in, made up of fruit and vegetable matter. I wouldn't put too much citrus, oranges and lemons and that sort of thing, or lots of onions. In fact, I'd leave the onions out actually, because the worms don't like them. So, and the citrus makes the soil a bit too acidic. So, I don't actually put onions and citrus in my compost bin. In my hot bin. So, I don't know whether you've got the link to the video, Alex, but there is I picked out a really good video on how to make your own wormery.
The name of the video is written.
Oh, worm composting, how to make a wormery. Right. There are quite a few videos on there, so if anyone wants the actual link, just to make sure they've got the right one, then let me know, and I'll pass it on. How are we doing for time?
One thing that I will say about the wormery, because I have had one that I made myself, is that you need to cut the food very thin,
right?
Like very very small, and put it a bit, instead of putting like here, instead of putting it just on top, I always put it a bit inside of the compost.
Right, you mix it up a bit.
Yeah, and I will keep that part a bit more wet as well, because otherwise I think that they cannot eat. Like for them, it's very difficult to eat when the piece is very big.
Yeah.
So it's better otherwise you start to accumulate like rotten food, and that can smell bad. So it's better to make it easy for them, I think.
Yeah. Have you still got the wormery?
No, because I don't know what happened. I think it got too wet, so I released them into the garden.
Right. Release the worms.
Yeah. Well, they were worms from the garden as well. I didn't buy them, so it was just it was totally an experiment. Totally.
Oh, right. No, you apparently there's two types of worms. Tiger worms, which is the most popular one, and there is another type of worm which I can't remember the name of, but I think. I can't remember.
I took the ones that are normally in the first layer of ground, that are the ones that eat the the food that when it's the pieces of material when they are bigger. The ones that are deeper in the ground, they like more compost. But the ones that you can take from the surface or that they are inside of the what is the name? The manure, they are the ones that are able to break down big things.
Right. I mean, I don't know how they got in, but I've actually got some tiger worms in my pottery.
Yeah. So probably are these ones that are mostly in the surface.
Yeah. Okay, so the last compost method is the bokashi, which I've only recently sort of discovered myself. And this is good for balconies, and you can actually keep them in kitchens or in a cupboard. And the bokashi method is a Japanese technique that uses an anaerobic fermentation. So it's not aerobic where it needs air. This you have to actually stop the air from getting in. Yes, so I've got here most normal composting needs aerobic, meaning it needs air for them to work. Right, yes, I'm just looking at my notes here. Right, so with the bokashi method, you need to keep the air out. And the one good thing about this method is that you can compost all food waste. So that's meat, fish, small bones, citrus, onion, anything that you was gonna chuck away from your kitchen. That can go into the bokashi bin. You don't have to worry about green and browns. It's just all food scraps. So when you get a bokashi bin, it will come as a kit, and it will have the buckets and this special bokashi bran, which is sprinkled onto the food waste. Again, some people say you can make your own bokashi bins, and again, a few good YouTube videos showing how to do it if you fancy having a go. To buy a single bokashi bin would be anything between £20 and £60, or you can buy two kits for around £80. Because the bins are much smaller than other compost bins, you're going to fill them up quite quickly. So it might be nice to have one that you're filling up and then one that is already full, because once it's full, you then have to put one handful of extra bokashi bran over the top, seal it down, and leave it for a couple of weeks. And then after following all the instructions and your bucket's full, and it's been sitting there for a couple of weeks, you then take the contents, go out into your garden, dig a hole, and you bury it. And then you cover it over with soil. And because the food has been fermented, it's already sort of broken down. And it will sort of roughly look the same, but the composition will be completely different. And putting the soil over the top, it will compost down very quickly. If you haven't got much space and you don't like the idea of just chucking all your food waste away, then I think this is quite a good one to look into. Yes, I think that's probably about it. Have we got time for any questions, or do you want to go on straight on to the kitchen planning, Alex?
I think we talk
kitchen
about the
planning. What am I talking about? Garden planning.
Garden planning. I think we go to the garden planning and then we do everything at the end.
Okay, all right.
So I'm going to show you a sample of how I have designed my garden for this season. You don't need to do it in the same way. I have a smaller space and I have a lot of different type of seeds, and I want to use as many as possible. So you don't need to do it in that way. I just try to maximize the space, and there is no not only one way of doing it. So probably if Christine sees that, she will be like, oh my god, I wouldn't have put this and this together. Or whatever. So everyone is different, and me, every year I do it differently as well, because last year I planted some things in some places and I saw that it didn't work, and this year I'm doing it different. So you are seeing just one option of 1 year. Keep that in mind. Now, don't get very scared. I have tried to make drawings so it's less intimidating. I will explain to you more or less what it is. You can see my cursor here. Do you see? So this in the middle is a corridor of cement. So I cannot plant here, but I can walk till the end. These boxes here are my beds, made with wood, the boxes that are down. On the other side is just ground. This is all ground all along. And here I have a wall. In the top part, there is a wall. Here is my garbage bin. Do you see it here? Top right. Here in the bottom there is another house. So from this left part is in shade most of the day. So in the morning there is a soft light, I'm talking especially about the spring and summer. There is like a soft light in the morning, but there from the middle of the day till the end of the day, this left part is in the shade. And you need to know these things for now planning and mapping and where are you going to put the plants. And these spaces here that you see, they are corridors that I leave to access these plants that are close to the wall. So it's very important to plan where are you going to have the corridors, because when all the plants are grown up, otherwise you cannot pass between them, or you need to step on them or something like this. So this is important as well. Now, when I start with this, the first thing that I plan are where I'm going to put the bigger plants. So in the beds here in the bottom, you can see the tomatoes. These are the tomatoes, and I know these ones are cherries, but they are also beef tomatoes, and all the plants get quite big. So this is one of the main things, placing the tomatoes. And as you can see, because they are in the right, they are going to receive full sun. And because, well, if you see, I have put them on the right as much as possible, it means that they are not going to shade anything. If I put the tomatoes here in the middle of the right, they would have given shade to all of this. So I prefer to put the tall things in the right as much as possible so they don't shade anything. Now, other big things, the courgettes that I put here, close to the compost bin, and these things are quite big as well. So I'm going to try to plant some soya in between, because it's a small little plant. But yeah, this is the main thing. Then the cucumber plants are also very big, and these cucumbers that I have, they climb. So this is why I put them close to the wall. I will do probably some type of mesh in the wall. Sometimes I do it only with some wire or some string, so the cucumbers can climb. And I have found out that it's a good idea to put them close to the wall, because the wall is warm up during the day, and so it's a very, very warm space. So after trying a couple of places, I think that my cucumbers love that specific part of my garden.
You must really like cucumbers, Alex.
I love cucumbers, yeah.
You're going to have loads and loads of cucumbers.
Yeah. We eat them all, and I can also do face masks and things like this. So yeah, I really like cucumbers. And then along the wall, I have also put the broad beans. Last year they were in another place, but I'm going to try them here. Here you can see a little pond that is basically a drawer with some water, but we have a toad, or we had last year a toad and a frog. So I hope that they are around after winter and they come up. So there is a pond there. So then the biggest things are placed, if you have seen. No, sorry, I forgot. This is big as well. Here I will put another type of mesh. I hope that you see my cursor, or a what is the name? Yeah, some kind of mesh or structure. And on one side of that, I will put melon, and on the other side, I will put a squash. So I can reuse the structure with 2 plants. So these are the biggest things planted. Now, what can I do to fill the spaces? And to fill the spaces, I use the companion planting that we talked about during the previous session, I think it was. So I check what things like to be with what things, and then I plant them together. For instance, these green dots are peas, and peas and squash are good friends, so I just plant them together. Here are also peas. If you see in the bottom, these green dots are also peas. Here they are also peas. And if you have seen, I put the peas in a place that is very accessible for me, here close to the corridor, and here I can access as well, because the peas are produced quite quickly, so you can just go pick some to cook during that evening. So I put them in places where I can access them, and I don't have to be fighting with the tomatoes or something to get to them. Herbs that are here in bright green, you can see that there are coriander in several places, and as you can see, they are also in the border of the bed, because my husband is Indian, as you know, and he eats a lot of coriander. So we have coriander very accessible so he can come through the corridor and pick just some leaves of coriander to cook. And then things that take more time to develop, like garlic, these little drawings here in the bed, if you see in the bottom part, they are garlic, and they are...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but actually I can't see visually anything. I don't know if it's just me or anybody else. I can't see.
Can you see, Christine?
I can see, but I can't see the bottom bit. A little bit of it is cut off.
Mine completely blank.
Well,
everybody else is okay.
If Christine and the rest of the people can see, there must be something wrong with you. Maybe you can try to close and go out and get in again.
I'll try. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, the bottom is a bit cut off, but you can still see the garlic. If you are feeling my arrow, and what I'm just saying is that I put them there, that is not easily accessible for me because they take months to develop. So I just put them away, basically. And the same with the beetroot. These purple things are beetroot. And the same, I put them a bit far because it's nothing that I'm going to be picking very often. Yeah. And other things. I have mentioned that this part that is in the left is more shaded. So the plants that I grow because of the leaves, not because of the fruit, they are going to be in the shade. Here you can read palm kale. These are Brussels sprouts, Calabrese broccoli, that you know that what we want is the head. That is actually a head of flowers, but we don't want it to flower or to go to seed. So we can put it in the shade and it is fine. Kale, we grow kale by the leaves, so it's also in the shade. Here I will have purple sprouting broccoli. And here more leafy plants, spinach, chard, and then Chinese flowering shoot that they don't like sun either. So all of these things are mostly in the shade. And these ones as well. Here we have more palm kale, Calabrese broccoli, and more spinach, pak choi. That is a type of cabbage. And then I will plant onion between them. So I can make rows. I don't know. I have some things from last year here as well. So that's why I haven't made a drawing, but I will interplant onion between all of them. So this has been the main placement, and then it's just filling the gaps, basically. So as you can see, I have put some beans here and there, filling the gaps. Beans, here there is some basil, beans. I want to have some plants to do cosmetics and things like this. So I have put some comfrey here, and comfrey can also be used to make a tea or to enrich the soil of the garden. So it's very useful to have. I have put some comfrey here on top as well. I have put some borage here, and also here, and also there. And borage has very nice flowers that are, and the bees and other pollinators feel very attracted to. So I distribute it in several places, so I attract pollinators. Here in the bottom part there are also some flowers. So these orange ones will be calendula, that we know that they are good to be planted with tomatoes, and I can use it in cosmetics as well. And here I have two nasturtiums that, as we mentioned, they are like a trap plant. Aphids and other insects are supposed to attack them instead of attacking other of your plants. I haven't been very successful with that, I think, this year, but I like them, so I just put them there. As long as they don't take over, because I think that they can take over. And that's basically the main placement. Then I'm going to give another chance to the cauliflowers, so I have decided to put them here with the soya. Another row of onion, another row of beetroot, more beans here. Here I want to try to plant some peppers. I haven't been very successful with peppers outside. They are more successful in the greenhouse, but so I'm going to put a couple of peppers there and here down, but this is for experimenting. This is more for experimenting to see if it works or not. And here there is what is the name? It's not a strawberry. What is the other thing? I never remember the name.
Raspberry?
Raspberry, yeah. I have a raspberry soup.
It looks like a raspberry.
Yeah. I put a raspberry here, is from last year, so hopefully this one comes up as well. And I think that's mainly it.
Alex, can I ask?
Yeah.
Is this planting you've got here for the whole year?
So this is the main season in spring and summer. But for instance, as the peas goes, I will plant more peas or I will plant other things. But I didn't want to complicate it that much.
Right.
This is going to be like and of course not everything is going to be planted at the same time as well. But I didn't want it to complicate more. It's just like how I expect it to be.
Right.
During spring and summer. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's it. So if you remember, during the last session we asked you to start to design your garden and to choose the plants that you wanted to eat and where to put them. I passed you a list of the seeds that Christine and I had, and you can choose from there. A couple of people have chosen already, but you can have a look after designing your garden. And then after having those two things done, you need to plant your garden, because I have mentioned not all the plants go into the garden at the same time. So here I have put a link to a planting soil line, so you can have a look what is planted when, and design and plan when are you going to plant. But in the next session, in session 4, we will talk a bit more about germination, the life of the plant. So we will talk a bit these differences between plants when you plant a tomato in comparison to when you plant a kale, for instance. So we will talk more about this during the last session. The last session will be the 30th of January. This is just for you to have an idea of how things are. The next session is the 30th of January. We can have another one the 13th of February if we feel that there is people that want to know any specific things or anything was left. And the planting, we should start to germinate things around the 14th of February. Some of the things. So just for you to get an idea how much time you have to plant the things. Is 1 month and a half. So just for you to keep it in mind. We should start to organize things now. And that's it. Now my idea was asking one of you to share your plan of the garden. I don't know who has done this, but it's quite fun. So my idea was one of you to share the plan of the garden, and we can help you. Hello, Samu.
This is Martina speaking.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see me, because actually I can't see any of you as a video. So I think I have a technical problem today. I can see you as I can see you now, actually, strangely enough. on the stairs, so that's a good thing.
Now we can see you in big. What you can do, Martin, is getting your drawing of the garden and show to us.
Okay, well, I apologize. I haven't actually done a drawing as such. I can show you where I've done so far, or more in writing.
Ah, okay. So
what I have done is I've actually measured what I have, the space I wanted to have some plants growing, and I know it's about 4 meters in length, but it's only 60 centimeters wide. So
Okay.
It's quite modest compared to your garden. But because it's the first time I start, it's going to be an experiment for me this year.
I mean, it's fair enough. It's a good space. And how shady or sunny it is?
It is actually quite sunny. There is about meters of it, which is very, very sunny, and a meter which is has a little bit more shade. And what I have done also is to look from the previous what I would like to eat. And I have decided to have some shallots, some tomatoes, some lettuce, little gem lettuce, and some peas. And I find out sort of peas called alderman peas.
Martin already has the seeds. Very well done.
Sorry?
You already have the seeds. Yeah, very well done. That's good planning.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. For some reason, I didn't manage to see the list, but I'll have another look to see what it was. And what I calculate is how I could space everything. And I thought if I put the shallot in the area which is the most sunny with the tomatoes, and then maybe the lettuce after, and then I was going to put the peas at the end because otherwise they would put a shade on the rest. And also the peas, I understand, don't need the full sun. So they might be better on the right-hand side of that tiny little plot.
I think what needs most of the sun are the tomatoes. So these are the ones that have the priority for the sun. Definitely. And actually the peas, yeah, they need sun, but for instance, the seeds, the peas grow very quickly. So your peas are going to come out. You are going to harvest them before the tomatoes. So the peas is the first thing that you can plant, and you can plant it quite soon. And you can grow the first generation of peas maybe even before you plant the tomatoes outside.
Right, yeah, I wasn't too sure about the timing, because also I thought if you plant everything at the same time, you have to harvest everything at the same time. And it'd be nice to be able to understand how you can maybe plant a little bit a certain time of the year, and then a little bit further down the year maybe.
Yeah. With peas, what I do is just I collect, I plant again. I collect and I plant again because it's a very quick harvest. It's a very quick plant. So
Right.
yeah, and I think that you can plant perfectly the onions and the peas along the tomatoes. Actually, the smell of the onions repels some pests for the tomatoes. So it's good to plant them together.
Right. Right. So I actually got onions, but I had put them on the left hand side because that's the sunniest area. But if I put them to the peas, that would work then.
You can even interplant, put onion, some peas, onion, some peas. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And the one challenge I had last year, I didn't grow vegetables, but sunflowers in that particular area as a try, and it was extremely successful. But I had the first lot were completely, utterly eaten by the snails. So I had to then, because I had put the seeds straight in the ground, and as soon as the shoot came out, that was it. So I had to do a second lot of those plants. So now I'm a bit wary about my vegetables because they were very, very greedy when it comes just to the flowers.
Yeah,
And I had to fight them off throughout the whole year just to get those flowers. And I don't know how to protect the vegetables.
If you have problems with slugs and snails, Martine, sometimes it's better to germinate them in little pots inside and wait until they get to a certain height before you then transplant them out into the ground.
Yeah, that's how I did with the flowers. And the the second one more successful.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll
Me,
definitely do that with the vegetables.
sometimes I try protecting the seedlings with a cup or something on top, but the slugs got into them and they can be eaten anyway. So I agree with Christine that it's better to have them in another part. Yeah, because they can get into everything.
And you mentioned in an early lesson something called nasturtium,
Yeah.
a plant that's actually sacrificed to the slugs. I thought I might put that first, maybe, because they always come from the right hand side, which is
Do you
where the
mean-
shade is.
Martin, do you mean nasturtiums?
Maybe, yes. I thought nasturtium, but
And they, yeah, we pronounce it nasturtium.
Oh,
right. Okay.
that's my fault. Sorry.
And where do
But
you find that?
they don't repel slugs. It's usually black fly and green fly that they sort of are good for. So if you want to get rid of slugs and snails, you've got to go out at night and with a torch and actually pick them off. And,
yeah. Funny enough, I used to do that with my grandfather and my grandmother when I was a child. But in France, we used to eat them afterwards.
Right, lovely.
And one thing, this plant that we are talking about, these flowers, they can grow quite big, and they can take over a lot of the space. So if you have a smaller space, maybe I wouldn't plant it.
Okay.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I think the lettuce, the lettuce, what we want is the leaf. Again, we don't want it to sit. So it will be better if you put it in half shade or in a place where it can be in shade most of the day. So otherwise it's going to bolt. That is when it develops a stem in the middle, and then it develops seeds and it stops to grow leaves. So it will be better if you put that on the other side when it's more shaded.
Where it's more shady.
Yeah. You can put also spinach, for instance, if you like a spinach. And it's like the lettuce, you can take some leaves now and then.
Yeah, I like spinach.
Yeah, so you can put some lettuce and spinach there.
Yeah, excellent. I have more sunny part than shady part, I have to say. Probably 3 meters of sun and 1 meter of shade.
Well, that is 3 tomatoes, actually. Yeah.
Right, excellent. So I love tomatoes. It's one of the only thing I miss from the south of France. Not even actually the tomatoes.
Yeah.
Because I could pick them from my father's garden and they tasted so wonderful.
I totally relate. Yeah. Okay, this is more or less is fine. Do you think? Is there any other person who would like to share their garden or their windowsill or the space that they have?
I would like, yes.
Yes, Samu?
Okay, hello, I'm Sam. I live in a flat, so I have a very small balcony, and it's in a shape of a triangle. So it's something like this. It's really never shady because the sun hit it from the morning till the dawn. But so the morning comes from this side, the sun, and then in the evening, this is the more sunny part. The camera is horrible.
No, it's okay. We understand more or less. Okay.
Well, I can talk instead of showing it maybe. So I'm going to buy 2 different, like 4 very long but very narrow pots to put in both fences. And then in the sunny one, I would like to put something like cherry tomatoes or peas. And in the other one, something like spinach and lettuce. And in between, maybe putting something like garlic in between the tomatoes, or onions, if you said that the onions were good with the tomatoes, or radish. But my main worry is all of this going to resist very windy weather? Because it's windy all the time, and I'm worried that the peas and the tomatoes are going to fly away.
That's fair. How wide they are going to be your planters? And
Very narrow.
how narrow and how deep as well?
Maybe, not very deep. Well, how deep do they need to be? Because I haven't bought them yet.
Because it depends on what tomato plant you want. If you want, do you remember that we were talking about determined and undetermined tomatoes and all of this? Like the plants that I had in my garden, they are taller than me. So of course they so you need to decide what tomato plant you want, and based on or what planter you have, and based on that selecting one variety of tomato or another, because otherwise it's not going to grow very well. But yeah, maybe cherries would be a good option.
Yeah, because you said cherries are like a bush instead of growing taller.
And that it will be good as well because of the wind, probably, because if you
Yeah.
have something very, very tall, chances are that are going to be like that. But if you have a bushy cherry tomato, so a determined variety, maybe it will be better.
Okay.
But
And would it
say.
would it be a good idea to plant bamboo next to the fence to help the tomato, or not? If it's or the peas?
You mean like a stalk to tie them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tomatoes and peas are going to need some type of structure to hold them. Yeah. A tomato definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the peas, it depends how you want to do it. For instance, you can put 2 stalks on the sides, and then you can put like a string on the between the stalks, and you can have the peas growing inside. So the peas have these dendrils, and they will grab the wire or the string. So that is a very easy way, because if you have only a few and it's not very heavy, just a bit of like two stalks and a string, they can hold them perfectly. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds really good.
And peas is good because they don't need a lot of space for the roots.
Nice. So that's what I need. Things that don't need a lot of roots.
Yeah. So that can work as well. And what else? The other thing is, if you say that space have sun most of the time, in summer maybe your spinach and your the lettuce you mentioned,
Yes.
then maybe they will bolt if they are receiving a lot of sun. So maybe it will be better if you plant them along with other things that are going to give them shade.
Okay.
So maybe one spinach between 2 bush tomatoes, and they are going to give shade to the spinach.
Nice.
Yeah, instead of receiving direct sun. Or maybe you can, I don't know, you can make somehow a shade or something.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can do, what you can do, instead of putting all the tomatoes in one side, you can spread the tomatoes in all your angle. But
very beautiful.
what you can do is interplant other plants that they don't need the sun in between.
Cool. Like a spinach.
Like a spinach, yeah.
And what about radish?
With radish, I don't have that much experience. Christine, do you know?
Radish are very good for growing quickly. So if you want to put something in, and only a few weeks later you'll actually get some radish. So they're quite hardy. So it's usually people sow radishes to show where you've sown carrots, because the radishes will come up, they will germinate very quickly, and you will be able to see where you planted the carrots. So by the time the carrots start to germinate, the radish will probably almost be ready to pick.
So maybe someone can interplant them as well.
Yeah.
Like put them, and you can probably harvest them.
They don't grow very high either. So
maybe in the base of the tomatoes, like in the corners of the planter where you don't have space for spinach or space for tomato.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and you can probably even like plant them, collect them, and then plant peas, and then collect them, and then plant radishes again. Like you can make it very dynamic if they grow well in your space. And Mary, you can do the same maybe with your space. Like you can do something like that as well. So it's the same thing, because it will be a small planter. So like a bushy cherry, spinach, lettuce, radishes, things that grow like this. Samu, if you like chili, you can put or a small pepper plant.
I was thinking, because I have also very big windows, but not that much space. I was thinking having like 2 shelves close to the window. I have like a chili pepper pot, coriander, dill, rosemary in the pots inside.
That sounds good. It will be nice if you put how to say, some kind of flower also outside.
Which flowers would be
to attract pollinators for the tomatoes and for the rest of the plants.
That be something like lavender that also smells good.
But that will also stay. That is going to be a plant that is perennial, so that will also stay. Maybe if you like rosmarinus, like for food, maybe you can put a rosmarinus somewhere because the flowers attract a lot of pollinators, and you can use the rosmarinus in your meals for cooking.
I don't know what's a rosmarino.
Rosemary.
Sorry.
Rosemary.
Rosemary, romero.
Romero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love romero. Yeah.
Sorry, I tend to use the Latin name sometimes. I don't know why. So you can do that. You can put some kind of herb or something with a nice flower that attract pollinators that is going to help you to pollinate the other plants, but you can use for cooking as well.
I love rosemary. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's a really good idea.
We have a candidate.
And I have another question. In the fences, I wanted to cover them, but it's forbidden to put something like wood, plastic, or anything that could be flammable. So I was thinking if in the beginning of my balcony I have 2 pots with plants like wisteria or passion fruit that I can start guiding through the fence, how is that going to affect my garden pots? Do you think?
It depends the height of the height as well. This year probably is not a problem because it's going to take some time for them to grow and cover all your balcony, isn't it? But maybe for the future you need to see how tall your planters are, because maybe they can shade the plants in your planters. But if your planters are high enough, then maybe whatever is growing on the sides, they will then cover the shade. Or you can try to make them grow, but more like on the lower part of the balcony instead of up.
Or I could, if I grow only in this part, then I will have the shade for the spinach and the lettuce.
As well.
Next year, obviously. Yeah, not this year.
Yeah. You have to think more about next year than this one. Yeah, because it's going to take a while. Yeah, that's a good idea as well.
And things like, you say you plant a lot of coriander, things like coriander and chili, and dill, is that something better to plant outside, or can I have it in a pot inside? Because I could put another pot here with dill, coriander, and...
You can even interplant coriander and dill with tomatoes and other things as well.
Alright.
Yeah, one thing with the coriander and the dill, because they are herbs, if they are exposed to a lot of sun, they tend to flower and give seeds, so they stop to grow leaves.
So better inside.
So you can have them inside. Then the other thing is that you need to maybe keep adding nutrients to the pot, because if they are growing in a pot and you are all the time taking the leaves, maybe at some point they exhaust the nutrients in the pot. So yeah, you can try several to see. You can put them in different places to see where they grow better. You can put some between your tomato. You can keep some of them inside and see which one you prefer. Yeah, in my garden I see that a lot. That it depends where I plant them and how much shade and sun they receive. That they grow better, or they just go to seed very quickly. Like they release 3 or 4 leaves and then they grow to flower, and that's it. It's done. Yeah.
Okay. And another question, for the inside, I got a very small orange tree.
Okay.
And I read the instructions, but if you have any advice, because it already have little oranges, because it's from the flower shop. But I don't know if they are gonna grow more, or how could I start taking better care of it.
Is it ornamental or is it like an orange tree?
Probably it's ornamental. I can bring it. Give me 1 second.
Because if it is ornamental, I guess that it will be like a bonsai, isn't it?
Yeah. Good. I'm gonna show them our orange tree.
Christine, do you have experience with orange trees?
No, I have a lemon tree in my.
I have a lemon as well.
That was from seed, but
Some years back.
So this is.
Yeah, I think it's like a bonsai somewhere.
yeah.
So it's not for eating.
I don't think. I don't know. Maybe they are even toxic. I mean, find out.
Okay. Okay.
Find out before you. But it looks like a bonsai. Maybe if you want to grow, both Christine and I, we have lemon trees, and I just pick a seed from an organic lemon and I planted it, and it is quite big, and I just keep it inside during the winter because it's too small to be outside during the winters, and it's growing very well. So, and it's not a very big pot. The only thing is as it grows, I will need to repot it until it can be outside. But yeah, it was very, very easy to grow a small lemon tree.
Lemon tree. Okay. Yeah, you did recommend me lemon tree. I saw this one and I thought, I'm gonna start with an orange tree.
Yeah, but maybe it's even toxic. I don't know. Some ornamental plants are toxic, so I wouldn't eat fruits from ornamental plants.
I won't eat it. I'm a little bit worried because some of the leaves are getting dry very quickly, and the soil is damp, is wet. So I don't know what else to do with it for it not to get dry.
Sometimes too much water is bad.
Okay.
As well, it's important to have a pot that it can drain properly. So we keep adding water, thinking that we are giving them love, but actually we can drown them. So So maybe when you want to put water, put it in a place where they can soak the water that it needs. Yes. I don't know how is your pot, but yeah.
Yeah, it has an extra pot with water. Yeah, it's draining all the water into another pot.
It may have.
You need to put it in the sunniest position as possible.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Okay.
And it may have exhausted the nutrients that are in the pot. I think that they sell actually in garden shops mixes that are nutrients specific for citrus. So maybe that's another thing you can try.
Nice. Thank you.
Any more questions, or are you happy?
I'm very happy. Yeah, I have so much to get cracking.
Please send us pictures of all of this once you do.
Yes, definitely.
It's going to look nice. Okay, another person wants to ask. Mary, yes.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
So we did plant with our garden. So we have a very, very small space and everything is inside. So we mainly have windows, okay?
Okay.
So we have a few house plants and they are doing really well actually. We also have basils and they are now like nearly 2 years old and they are pretty good too. So our sunniest place is this one. So we were thinking in planting like some determinate cherry tomatoes here. Yeah.
Yeah.
The windowsill. Then also this area here is quite sunny as well most of the day. So we were thinking as well in putting like maybe some. We have the basils here basically. They are doing okay. But we were thinking maybe doing some pepper, like a small pepper plant. Peas. Then maybe some garlic there. And we have then these areas there, here also, and here, which is not very sunny, so we are not sure exactly what to put there.
And it's not a windowsill.
Yeah, it's not a windowsill.
But it receives sun from the windows in front, a bit.
Yeah, a bit of sun. So basically, our place, it's fairly small. So what we wanted was like quite like a productive plant that needs to be small. And we
And
just and indoors, indoor plants.
I wouldn't plant garlic because garlic needs at least 10 consecutive days for the bulbs to actually split and make a larger clove. So garlic is much better to be outside in sort of the frosty weather. So it wouldn't work indoors. And the area that you say isn't actually next to a window. To us, it might seem that there is lots of light, but to a plant, it will probably be semi-darkness. So the more light, the better. You can get sort of like lettuce leaves, sort of like lots of different types of lettuce, and you can grow them on a windowsill. And you just sort of snip off. It's sort of like cut and grow. So you just keep snipping off the lettuce, the leaves that you want. That's quite good for indoors. But I wouldn't do the garlic. It will probably just rot.
If you want something productive that grows in a small space, you can have green onion or chives. Green onion or chives, you can just cut the tops and they keep growing, especially chives. Chives are super productive and they give, you put a little bit and they give just such a taste. But you don't need to have a pot only for them. You can have maybe a cherry tomato and on the side, like in the side of the pot, put like a line of chives or a line of green onions, so you can have two things in one. So that's another option.
Like let's say the shady parts of the plant.
Would peppers work or just chili?
Peppers and chili, maybe a small pepper plant, but that they need warmth and sun. So that will need to be in one of the sunniest part. Maybe in the middle part you could have in the middle sun you could have the lettuce and the spinach. I will try spinach if you like spinach. Yeah, something like this. Maybe you could try a beetroot.
Okay.
In the middle light, but that takes a long time as well. So maybe if you want something more productive, peas will be better. Some herbs, you haven't mentioned herbs, but maybe you could have some coriander, I'm going to say basilica,
Parsley.
but it's not basilica. What is the name, Christine?
Basil.
Basil. Yeah.
Or parsley.
Parsley, yeah. I love basil. Basil is very nice, and you can snip it, and it will ramify more and more. So yeah, basil is very. You can put basil with the tomatoes as well. You can combine them in the same planter.
We've got some experience with the basil, and actually it's doing pretty well. We
started with one plant, and then we have 4 plants.
4 plants.
Okay.
It's doing okay.
So maybe other herbs will thrive as well. Coriander is very nice, but if you plant coriander, I will see. I have seeds, so I can give you some seeds. But I think there are other varieties that give more leaves. This is like a bit poor in leaves. So I don't know. I can pass you some if you want, or you can try to find another that has like more. I don't know, like more leafy. That is more leafy, as you prefer. But I have, if you want. And what else? Anything else do you think, Christine, that you can have?
Indoors?
Yeah.
Not that I can. Radishes.
Yeah.
Probably do radishes indoors. They're nice and quick. They grow they germinate very quickly and grow quickly.
Dill, if you like dill, you could have dill as well. But yeah, chives and green onions, I think they would be a good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
I don't know if you saw, but in the first session, I think I put a picture that you can make like a vertical garden. I don't know if you want to cover all your window with that, but that will be another option. So you can have like several floors of small things, or maybe a string or something. Some people use the cap of the neck of a bottle, and they put one under another one, so the water can even drop from one to the next one. And they do like a string of a vertical garden. So that will be one option for radishes or something small.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah.
That can be cool.
How we doing for time, Alex?
Yeah, half past 12. I guess people want to go to lunch. Well, we have helped 3 or 4 people. If you want to make us any question, you can just message us a picture of the map of your garden and your ideas, and we just help you. We just answer the email, and we help you out. Or we can talk in the next session. Up to you. I will forward the email again to Martin for the plants, so she can, for the seeds that we have, so she can choose. And that's it. If you have any other question, or how big are my beds?
I just have one question, if I may. The tomatoes seem to need a lot of space, like 40 centimeters apart. Can I put parsley in between?
Yeah, parsley, onions, garlic, so many things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the tomatoes, and also we will see it in the next session maybe. With the tomatoes, as they grow, normally you pick the lower leaves, so that means that it's quite open on the bottom. That's why I encourage you to interplant other things with the tomatoes. Yeah. My beds are like 1.5 meters by 2.5 meters, and they are not very high. Maybe they are like something like this, like 30 centimeters, but I have them like on ground, and the ground have certain depth. So I think that I have at least like 70 centimeters of ground, and that is enough to grow tomatoes. Yeah, if you are going to put the bed directly on top of cement or something, then you need more depth than the bed. Yeah, or you can put like a bed. I don't know if you have seen these ones that are a bit like high. There are so many options, but yeah, think about the depth of the soil, because depending on that, you can grow some things or other. If it's very shallow, no.
And my very last question: do we prepare the ground now? Do we put the cardboard?
You are late already. You are late already.
I'm late, oh dear.
But yeah.
I didn't have any compost. I need to go and buy some. I mean, that was one of the reasons. Okay, I'll do that straight away as my.
I don't know where you live, but where I live, we have horses close by, and they give free manure. They give manure for free, so you can buy compost. But if you want, you can try to see if there is someone with horses around.
Surely you still have to compost the horse manure unless it's already
very digested. Yeah.
Otherwise, it will just burn the plants.
Yeah. Mine, where I go, the manure is outside, so it's already being composted. So most of it is it looks almost like compost already.
Oh right.
Yeah. So I just put directly over the cardboard, but yes, it depends, of course, how fresh it is. But it is. That's why I was saying it last year, because then there would have been some time until it decomposes. Yeah. So maybe now you will need to buy compost, because we are starting next month, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we start the planting before the last session? And you mentioned 14th of January. Is that when you're starting to plant the little seeds?
14th of February.
14th of February.
Yeah. So we have like 1 month and something. So we will talk before we start planting. There is another session or 2, depending on what you want. Yeah. No rush. But it's time to plan. At least we need to plan and get the seeds. So later on, because I don't know if you have seen, but later on, when everyone starts to plant, everyone starts to buy seeds. So in many shops, they actually run out of them. They run out of stock. So it's better to do this with some time. Okay, so we have finished 1.5 hours. Every time our sessions get longer and longer, but it was very interesting. Thank you so much. And that's it. I will send the recording, and maybe I sent again the list of seats. If you want to email me the ones you want, so we can start to do exchanges. And thanks to you. And that's it. See you soon.
Thank you so much again. It was wonderful.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks
Most
to all of you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.